Hey everyone, and welcome to the Private Podcast, where we plug in and explore the intersection of privacy, human rights, technology, and democracy. I'm your host, Derek E. Silva. Today, joining me on the podcast is Bradley Cam. Brad is the co-founder at Unstoppable Domains and former CEO at Talkable. Unstoppable Domains is building a very important component of a user-owned web. And now, here's the conversation with Bradley Cam. All right, and like I said off the top, we have Bradley Cam from Unstoppable Domain. Brad, thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thanks a bunch for having me.
Terrific. Let's start with some basics, just for people who don't know maybe who you are or about Unstoppable Domains. You're a co-founder at Unstoppable Domains, so obviously that means something, especially nowadays. You guys have been in the press a lot over the last year to 2 years. But could you first tell us a little bit about your journey into cryptocurrencies, blockchain, Web3, whatever you prefer to call it these days?
Yeah, it's changed. The names have changed a lot too.
Yeah.
So I'm an entrepreneur. Started companies, going back to college days. Moved out to San Francisco in 2012 to work on a marketing tech company. Nothing to do with crypto, but I moved into this house called 20 Mission in the Mission District in San Francisco. This was the end of 2012, and it was a co-living house. I think there was like 20 or 30 people in there at the time, all sharing one kitchen and one set of bathrooms. But it was a crypto hub. And so there were all sorts of crypto entrepreneurs there, crypto fans there. There were Bitcoin meetups in the basement. There was a Bitcoin media channel that was launched there in the basement in 2013. Vitalik gave a talk in our courtyard before Ethereum went live. Pretty much everybody in the community was in some way, shape, or form involved in crypto. So I went down the rabbit hole sometime in 2013. Was just an enthusiast fan, buying Bitcoin, going to meetups, watching it. Didn't really know how I would, directly get involved in the space. I kind of knew I would do something in crypto eventually, but I didn't know what or when or how. And then when Ethereum went live and we started seeing all these dApps launch, I could imagine like kind of like a like a regular consumer business, regular a consumer business launching on top of a blockchain that would be viable, and that was kind of one of the steps that led to Unstoppable being founded, and Unstoppable was founded in January of 18.
Nice. 2013, Vitalik. So he must have been like what, 14 years old? Feels like he must have been pretty young at the time.
I think his talk was in 2014.
Okay.
He probably 19 or 20, something like that.
Okay.
I might
Quite
have
young
ages
though.
wrong, but yeah, very young.
He feels like perpetually 24, 25 to me now, even though he's probably like in his early 30s now. It's just, or at least late 20s. I don't even know. It's not important, but yeah, I just wanted to make the joke because he's been at it for a while. Um, So, can you go back a little bit? You talked about founding some startups, helping marketing startups, starting of this Marcom or Martech company in San Francisco. Like, what were some of those earlier startups? Maybe some of the ones you're most proud of, or some of the ones just things just didn't go well. Because I'm sure we all have those.
Well, so I guess my first one, or my first set of ones, were in Atlanta, and they were real estate related companies. So one of them was like residential real estate holding company during the last housing crisis. I think we bought our first house for like $20,000 on a credit card. It was a very crazy, very crazy time. So that one went okay. It wasn't a huge win. It wasn't a huge failure. Wound up selling the portfolio. I think made a little bit of money, but not really. And then moved to San Francisco to work on Talkable, which is an enterprise SaaS company that is still going strong. My co-founder is running it. I'm on the board. So that's an enterprise SaaS company with a bunch of great large e-commerce customers. Uh, it's a great business. I love it. I just found myself going to sleep at night thinking about crypto, and knew that I knew that's where all my mental energy was going. I was reading about crypto 2 hours a day anyway. Um,
Hmm.
now it's my job. Now crypto Twitter is basically my job. So
Yeah.
that's like that just that felt like merging hobby with day-to-day work. I think is like a that can be a real superpower. So I don't ever turn off, which I guess is a problem. But I'm enjoying it, so that's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely feel you there. Like crypto Twitter, Discord, and Telegram is life basically. Except for this is like my one reprieve where I actually get to stare at another person for about an hour and just talk instead of typing things. Okay, so you said early on you could see some sort of consumer business being built on top of a blockchain. You actually went ahead and do that, or sorry, did that. So what inspired you to start Unstoppable Domains specifically, as opposed to maybe something else? And who are your co-founders there?
Yeah, so my co-founders are Matt Gould and Braden Pozeski and Bogdan Gusiev. And Bogdan and Matt I've worked with together. We all work together at Talkable, and Matt and I have worked together and founded other companies together. And then Braden, who's our founding engineer, went to coding school with Matt, and so that's how we connected with him. But the idea around identity on the blockchain and around masking crypto addresses, I think was floating around very very early in crypto. So like 2011, there was the first attempt with Namecoin. Bitcoin meetups in 2013, people were talking about how like there's no way this tech is going to go mainstream with all these crazy long addresses. Like that's just
Right.
not going to be how the future is going to work. And I think that was almost like a default assumption in the community. Like this is not the way the tech is going to work. And so I think we started with that. So I mean, Matt and I had conversations about masking addresses all the way back to like 2015 time. I think the thing that triggered Unstoppable was, hey, this stuff is now possible. Like we saw NFT projects starting to launch on Ethereum, I guess 2016, 2017 time, and being able to actually like quasi function. And that was kind of the impetus. It was like this is a known problem. I think we know that identity on the blockchain is important. Identity on the regular internet is just completely and utterly broken. I don't think we realized how bad it was. I think we started with, hey, crypto needs an identity layer for crypto people. And then as we got deeper, we realized, hey, the regular internet is totally, totally broken in terms of identity. Like 2016 election hack was basically fake identities all over Twitter and Facebook, etc. Facebook has been running an ad and targeting me. This is very bad targeting, by the way, on their part, where they show me an ad that says, "We deleted 500 million profiles this quarter to keep you safe." And I'm thinking, half of your entire user base is fake profiles? And you're
Yeah.
advertising this? That sounds like
Yeah.
your app is completely broken. Elon just backed out of the Twitter deal, ostensibly because too many bots. So like this is like the core problem on the internet, and I think we knew that there was problems, but I think once we got deeper here, we realized, wow, like this tech is also going to just completely remake the internet. So once we got that spark, it became very clear like this is the thing to work on.
Okay. I don't disagree. That was actually one of the big reasons I got in originally was I fell down the rabbit hole through a few discussions and meeting some really interesting people, but like Bloom Protocol, which was trying to build, well, we're still building a decentralized identity platform, not tied to an address of some kind, but like for general purposes was I was like, yes, this is great. Like this is super necessary even in the traditional world now. So yeah, no, I agree. It's been a great use case. I do have a couple of unstoppable
Great.
domains registered. So I guess I should get that out there for myself and for my business. But yeah, so I guess just in the interest of full disclosure, I'm a customer, just for people who are wondering. Not a stakeholder of any kind, just a customer. But no, that's terrific. And so, like, so you guys started. When was the first release? Was that about 2 years ago now?
So yeah, company was founded in January of 18, but we didn't start selling domains until January of 19. And then we went, yeah, so the smart contracts went live, I believe, for the first registry, I believe went live in September of 2019.
Okay.
And yeah, I've been just kind of running from there.
Was I think the .zil came from like a relationship with Zilliqa. Is that right? Like what like where did you guys start, and how's that evolved over time?
Yeah, I think at first we were thinking, okay, there's all of these different, all of these different blockchains, and each of those ecosystems is going to need some sort of an identity layer. And so we started going around to blockchains, and Zilliqa was the first. And then I think what we realized when we got into it and we were talking to apps was apps are saying, hey, like I basically support Ethereum only. Maybe I support one or two other blockchains, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's been very hard for a lot of alternative blockchains. There's a couple, but for the most part, it's been very hard for alternative blockchains to be able to get widely integrated into apps, and that's really important because domains by default don't work inside of crypto wallets for payments or inside of dApps
Right.
for authentication. Those apps actually have to go and integrate, and it's trivial for them to integrate with Ethereum or another EVM compatible chain because they're already doing it.
Hmm.
So that just became so much easier, and so we went to Ethereum soon after, and have since launched on Polygon for fees, but for fee purposes. But yeah, I think that's what we realized is that what makes it easy for apps to support your system is really really important because ultimately, like anyone can mint NFT domains on a blockchain. The hard
Yeah.
part is getting apps to support it, and that's really what we've spent the past few years doing is getting these hundreds of wallets and dApps, et cetera, to support it so that domains can actually be useful.
Yeah, I've actually thought about that before. I'm like, okay, it's not the registry itself is easy, like ENS. Like that's not the hard part. The really hard part is all this real world BD stuff where you need to go to MetaMask and be like, hey, can you support, name server lookups essentially, domain lookups for typing in dereksilva.eth or .crypto or whatever and where that points to? That would be great. And yeah, that's it's and which is a very typical, startup problem of like, we actually got to get people to use the stuff, use the thing we're building, and not just telling people about it. Um, so like now you got, sorry, there we go. Now you've got .crypto, .nft, .wallet, .blockchain, .x, coin, Bitcoin, DAO, 888. Like is like what's driving some of these top level domains or these suffixes? Is it availability? Is it customer feedback? Like how are you deciding to do, .x and .blockchain and .888, for example?
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's one thing that we definitely heard from customers is that we want more choice, and I think that's been one of the issues in the space early on is that a lot of people would say like I don't want to identify just with a specific blockchain. That's not my relationship to crypto, or I just want this tool, and I don't care if it's associated with crypto, or I identify myself as part of some specific sub community. So what we realize is there's all these different sub communities out there and they're very unlikely to use the same system. So we wanted to build something for all of them. And so, the NFT community, very, very powerful, identifies separately to some extent, obviously overlapping, but somewhat distinctly from other crypto users. Same thing with the Bitcoin community, same thing with the DAO community to an extent. And then you also have a lot of these people that really just want the technology and aren't necessarily trying to join a crypto movement, so to speak. And for them, we would say, dot wallet is probably a good fit. I mean, that's when we talk to any company that wants to touch payments, that's what they wanted. They like
Right.
they don't care that it's crypto. They just want to receive money, and so dot wallet makes sense for them. Uh, dot X is supposed to be the sort of generic, identity for for regular internet users, and I think that one is probably I think over time that one's pretty interesting. And one of the reasons we picked it was because X.com is believed to be the most scarce or most valuable traditional domain name.
Right.
And so what we've seen in the traditional domain world is that is like one of the simplest, clearest things to identify with. And I think that's really important for naming because what makes a domain name, the utility of the domain to some extent is how easy is it to remember. The whole point here is we're doing human readability. So the more complicated your name is, the less human readable it is. The simpler, the more human readable it is.
Right.
.x is about as simple as you can get.
Okay, fair enough. Um, yeah. So where are we at right now? What, like, what's current status for roughly for like total number of domains registered and which suffixes or TLDs are the most popular right now?
So I think there's a little over 2.3 million domains registered in total.
Wow.
Uh, and so I think .crypto has the most, but .crypto also has an extra 18 months on a lot of these others. So a lot of these others have we released 8 in middle of 20 in June of 2021. .nft and .x and were released around then. So I think in terms of current registrations, .nft has taken the lead, um, but .crypto is still going strong. Um, yeah, then I believe .wallet and .x. Although .x is more, I think, about twice as expensive on average. So while it has a lower number of registrations, it is popular in dollar terms.
Cool. If you could give me a discount code for Derek.crypto, that'd be nice.
Let's talk. Let's
Because
talk for sure.
unfortunately, 10 grand is. I mean, I could pay 10 grand, but I'd rather not. I
So
don't think I could justify it.
So this is the thing is that like first names, and this is one thing that's unique about NFT domains. Traditional domains is mostly about business use cases, and therefore it's mostly about kind of like generic terms, finance terms, business terms, whatever. But because NFT domains are mostly for consumers, it means that kind of a different set of things are in high demand, and first names are basically the top of the list because if you can be, I mean, just imagine like on Twitter, like if you could be, at Derek, like would that like that would probably boost your following, right? Like
Yeah.
you would be discovered randomly, and so I think it's kind of like that, and that's part of the reason why people get so excited about first names. And yeah, like people are spending a lot on first names.
Yeah, I did notice that Vitalik dot anything basically is all protected right now. So I guess we're still where I like. Are you is like would that be a situation where Vitalik Buterin comes to you, he can KYC that it's actually him, and then you would release that, or like are you saving those for him and potentially like Roger Ver potentially maybe you're protecting that as well, like for some really well known people.
Yeah, so we do protect and block what we would consider to be either brands or individuals that are essentially brands, and so first and last name usually. But yeah, so like a Roger Ver or any crypto users, yeah, we would protect those so we can get them to them. And the idea there is that well, first of all, it's good for the ecosystem if they have those domains. But second of all, we don't
Yeah,
want a random person pretending to be them. So it's kind of dangerous if you don't do that.
yeah.
And this is something that exists in the traditional domain world. The traditional domain world is very good about this of trying to make sure that brands get their domains, at least getting a first shot. We've gone
Mm-hmm.
probably further than the traditional domain name world would because we just really don't want people to get phished.
Yeah.
And in the case of Vitalik, like it's hard for people to think of another Vitalik inside of crypto. So that's the reason why we went, maybe a little extra far with that one because people probably would assume that it's him, and so we just want to be careful there. But yeah, if he Twitter DMs us, we'll get it to him.
I can, however, buy a Bradcam NFT or .wallet.
Oh
I don't know.
shoot. Okay. Okay. Well,
I can't buy Bradley Cam .crypto NFT Bitcoin DAO etc. Looks like
it's
you
not.
probably already own .crypto, but
It's
but Bradcam is not
it's
protected.
and so this is a problem where like somebody can add a number or whatever, and so like
Hmm.
it is sort of like there is no perfect answer to this problem. It's just kind of
Yeah.
like a you do the best you can.
Oh, for sure. I was just I was like, okay, well, I'm here. I'm searching. I'm gonna try Bradcam. Just see what happens. All right. So you talked about releasing, 8 new TLDs or what is essentially, your equivalent of top level domains last June 2021. What are some of the other biggest innovations and developments that you guys have made either like early this year or over the past 12 months?
The big push this year, the big thing that we've been, well, so two big things. One is that we went live on Polygon in November,
Hmm.
which means that minting domains now costs about 2 or 3 cents. Which means so we pay gas fees when you claim a domain name, just so you don't even have to have Polygon in your wallet. So it's super simple for you.
Right.
And this has made it affordable for us to be able to give out a free domain name to new users. And so you saw us just launch a .blockchain with blockchain.com, where they have kind of like a deal for their users where you can
Hmm.
get kind of like a low value .blockchain domain name, like one with some numbers and letters for free. And this is possible because of being on Polygon. So this is just a way to create access. Like we think that all 4 billion internet users should have these things, and having the cost so low has made that possible. If we were on Ethereum, that would not be possible
Right.
because the gas would just be too high. So that's one big thing. The other big thing is we built a login and authentication protocol. And we think this is like one of the core use cases for NFT domains, which are consumer identity. And what you do is we have a button inside of, so when you go and like connect wallet to a dApp, it says login with Unstoppable. We're not a wallet. It's just a way for you to give permissions. So you sign a message with a private key that controls the domain name. So if it's in MetaMask or whatever, you're signing with MetaMask,
Yeah.
and then it gives you kind of like a permission screen, similar to like how Facebook OAuth used to work, and it says, do you want to share this type of data with the app
Right.
privately, or do you want to share a proof of this type of data with the app? So you can now do things like share a proof of your identity with an app. We call it humanity check. And so you can tell an app, I'm a unique person, but I don't want to tell you who I am. Uh, Give me a first time customer reward, things like
Right.
that.
Okay.
Or here is my contact info obscured. So you can send me emails or whatever, but you don't actually get to see my underlying email address. You can just send to a forwarding account. So all of it is around I'm the user, I control my data, I have my username that I control, I have a digital profile that I've created, my data. I go around on the internet and I log in and I give permissions to either share that data or share a proof of that data, but I never lose control of it.
Right.
And it's always with me. So every dApp I can just move around and my profile is always there. My data is always there. My reputation is always there. Um, this is a completely new paradigm for the internet where user is in control and user can get the same experience. So you can just play this out over the course of the next decade or something. Right now, Facebook is your data monopoly.
Yeah.
And so they control all of your data, and you're trapped there. Like you can't like pick up your data and go use it in another app. Not really. Facebook will allow you to do some things, but it's just whatever Facebook allows you to do. Um, what's going to happen in the future is I'm going to have this entire profile. I'm going to log into an app, and then all of a sudden, my entire profile is there. All of my history is there. My reputation is there. My contacts are there. All of it. So I don't need to rebuild every single time I move to an app. So it becomes trivial. I could use 20 Facebooks, and none of them would have this hold over me. They would all have to compete for my attention again. So like that would be like that's basically like a return to capitalism. Right now, we have lost. We have essentially, with the way the internet works now, we have moved into oligarchy. We have 3 or 4 overlords who control everything,
Yeah.
and we don't actually have functioning capitalism anymore because these companies control everything, and we're stuck. You can't really have competition. If you were to go and ask startups, like, if you go try to get VCs, hey, will you give me money for a social network to go compete with Facebook? They would look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah.
Say like that's not going to happen. This is the way it can happen is by taking the data storage part out of their business model,
Right.
which is also how they make all their money. Like they're selling your data, they're selling us. That's how they make all their money. So we're gonna flip that on its head. User's gonna control all the data. User might be able to sell their data, but no matter what happens, user decides, not app.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It brings me back to 2018. A lot of discussions I was having then about how important like everything, and that was Civic, that was Bloom, that was Streamer, that was like all these companies were like, it's your data, like you can decide what you want to do with it then, as opposed to we're gonna sell it behind your back basically. And even though it's not technically behind your back, nobody reads the terms of service, and so it's really ultimately more or less behind your back. Um, part of this whole thing, like you make it really easy, or Unstoppable Domains makes it really easy to basically like WordPress, make a super easy website. It gets stored on IPFS, which obviously makes it censorship resistant. Like, why is that part of the system? Why do you guys feel like that's important, an important feature to have?
So it's more that it is a um, it's possible to do. So there are going to be all sorts of different, I guess, grades of decentralization that people are going to use depending on the context.
Sure.
So it is possible to get to a fully user controlled website through a combination of IPFS and an NFT domain. That's a new thing in the world that could not exist before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Consumer websites, I would say, generally are not. Uh, uh, Consumers by default right now don't really use websites. So a little bit for personal stuff, but like it's not a huge consumer use case.
Yeah.
So we think that the bigger consumer use case is really around these digital profiles that follow you around more so than like having a display of that information on a IPFS website. That's great. It's cool. But I don't think that it's not the burning thing that users need. I think the burning thing that users need is an identifier that they control that gives them this digital profile that they
Right.
control. You can also use it for payments. You can also use it for websites. But the core is the profile. So there's a couple of browsers that support these websites, Brave and Opera, and there's a lot of websites that have been launched. I think greater than 10,000. But again, it's not. Yeah, that's a new customer base. That's a new user behavior. Like
Okay.
users are just not using personal websites these days.
Yeah. No. I read something the other day about how the personal brand is dead because Zoomers, or whatever my kids' generation is called, they actually prefer anonymity, and that's great because that's been something I've been not hammering into them, but very very much educating them on, like, you could do certain things online, but there is always going to be a consequence to it. And so, I don't want your MetaQuest, username to be your real name, and or Roblox. When I was letting my middle child play that, I'm like, we're not using your real name here. That's a bad idea, and here's why. And so I guess maybe that message is getting through to to the next generation of web users, technology users. But yeah, so hopefully, so like, is it part of your goal here then to bring additional privacy technology essentially to cryptocurrency, to blockchains, to decentralized storage? Like, these profiles don't have to be, I own dereksilva.crypto, I think, or .wallet, but like I could register, 0x something something, dot NFT, and like create a whole separate profile around that. Like, is that part of the goal here, is to bring additional identity but private, permission, as you mentioned earlier, tech to the forefront?
This is the great thing about the way that the tech is designed is that it really is a user decision.
Hmm.
So you can be public, you can be bradleycam dot crypto, and some people do that. It's just like for email, like you can be clearly identified, and you can be pseudo anonymous,
Yeah.
and you can be pseudo anonymous with verifications. So you can be pseudo anonymous where no one knows who you are, but they do know that you're a verified human, not a bot. And they do know some attributes about you if you're willing to share. Like, for example, you could say, I am a, 27-year-old male from this country, but I don't want to tell you who I am.
Right.
You could say, I have this reputation. I have done these things. I have written these things. I have these degrees, et cetera, but I don't want to tell you who I am. So the reason why we've needed to use real identity in so many situations today is because we don't have any other way to create trust. So, you tell me who you really are, and then I go and Google you, and I research you, and I try to figure out who you are and whether or not you're someone I should trust.
Right.
But what's going to happen here is I'm going to be pseudo anonymous, but I'm still going to be able to, you're still going to be able to know certain attributes about me 100%. And then you're going to be able to feel comfortable interacting with me without knowing who I am. And that's the problem that we have with pseudo anonymity right now is you can't get to pseudo anonymity plus trust
Mm-hmm.
on the internet today.
Okay.
So, pseudo anonymous profiles on Twitter, et cetera, have trust issues. And this technology can fix that. So it's really a user choice. I suspect that people are going to have both. I suspect people are going to have kind of like a LinkedIn type thing where they have like some very basic professional profile and information about themselves that are very public. That's kind of for everybody. And then they're going to have pseudo anonymous profiles where maybe they're more candid or whatever, and maybe only a very small number of people actually know who they are. So I think most people are going to want both. Um, it's just going to depend on the context, and I like that the younger generation is focusing on pseudo anonymity for some things because I think that will generate more honesty in a lot of in a lot of situations. So I think both are extremely important for for the human species for us to evolve in a healthy way. And the tech is very agnostic, so it's meant for both.
Yeah. Coincidentally, I just got a marketing email from Unstoppable Domains while while we were chatting here about the .nft TLD. um, so, so you met these as NFTs. You know, they're on chain. Polygon is obviously the less expensive way to do that right now between Ethereum and Polygon. Um, you talked about how the NFT community mostly identifies separately to a lot of like the DeFi folks or even the hardcore product and protocol folks like myself mostly. Um, so what do you think is the future around like digital asset ownership? Is it I don't even know what kind of extra context to provide here, but like, is it a lot of NFTs tied to real world stuff? Heck, even there's even an F1 racing team doing that, like verifying parts that they're putting on the vehicles using NFTs and things like that. Like, I know lots of people who want to have their house represented as an NFT. Like where do you see it, maybe specifically for unstoppable domains, but or your own personal opinion, where do you see things going here?
So this is not to knock any use cases or anything like that, but I would say that blockchains are better at digital native assets today. And the reason why is because you don't have to involve humans anywhere.
Right.
And this is like a big joke in the security community that the security hole is always the human. So, um, so if you have, a system where, the NFTs map to physical parts, well, like, what if a human goes and steals one of those parts?
Right.
And then it doesn't matter what the blockchain says because the part is gone. So there's always, whenever you get into the physical world, you're going to bump into uh, humans. And same thing is true for real estate. Like you're actually going to need the cities or the counties to agree to say the official record of who owns this property is this NFT on the
Yeah.
blockchain, not our internal database. And that has to happen. I think at least in America, that has to happen on mostly the county level. Like each county has their own system there. So I could see individual counties trying to do that at some point. I think it would be great if they could, and if they do. But I think that for the next few years, I think you're probably going to see a deepening of digital native use cases before you start seeing an explosion of physical ones, just because they're harder. Not because they're not awesome and not because they're not
Right.
important. It's just that whenever you're dealing with this physical world stuff, it just gets a lot harder. So I think you'll probably see that stuff develop maybe a little bit slower than the digital stuff. And that's part of the reason why I think you hear so much in the crypto world about the metaverse, etc. I heard a really good commentary on this from somebody. I think the guy was a uh, Christie's auction house
Yeah.
guy, and he was talking about NFTs for art. And he said when they were trying to learn about NFTs, they were thinking, okay, wow, this is going to be a cool way for us to track ownership of physical art. So we're going to like take our current auction process and we're going to add an NFT layer to it for tracking. And what really happened? They're selling punks and they're selling people and they're selling all this other sort of stuff. They're selling like the digital first stuff wound up selling for more than the physical art that they've been selling for decades or centuries or whatever. So they were surprised. They thought it was going to be this incremental improvement to their current system. And what really happened was the digital first stuff just went just way, way faster. And I think that's just because it's easier to do digital first stuff with the tech. So I think that's the reason. That's the reason why. The nice thing about what we're doing is NFT domains and identity and verifications are almost exclusively digital things. We're talking about digital records, digital verifications of information. So almost all of that stuff is kind of digital native. So I think we don't have to run into the physical world in the same way yet. I hope it will eventually extend into the physical world in all sorts of
Yeah.
ways, like unlocking doors and all sorts of things. But um, for now, I see a sort of digital first runway for us for the next several years. And I think that is going to make things move a little faster.
I actually, it's funny that you mentioned opening doors because I remember little over 4 years ago sitting in San Francisco with the Bloom team talking about all these potential use cases for DIDs and this amazing mobile app we were going to build. And opening access control was definitely one of them. Like I can scan a QR code or maybe NFC eventually. Like, are you in fact, Derek Silva? Yes. And the system verifies that I have access to open this, door that has classified material behind it or something like that. And we're totally still not there. Like I remember Civic announcing like a year later or 2 years later that they were doing a trial in New York City with like I think it was Johnson Controls. As far as I know, that's gone nowhere. Maybe I'm wrong, but I also haven't gone back to look it up. But I'm like, I've been waiting for this for like 4 years, literally at this point.
So there's a problem, which is you need to get consumers to have these identities.
Yeah,
So like all the cool infrastructure in the world doesn't matter if you don't actually have consumers with their identities. And I think this is part of the reason why people ask us like, why is a domain name the thing that you use for your identity? And part of the reason why is because consumers want them. And because consumers want them, it means that lots of consumers have them, which means that then you can make all of this other cool stuff. So we needed some way to get consumers to actually want and have their identities. And like this is the problem for like the did system that was being pushed all the way since 2014.
hmm
Like what consumer wants a did? So like it doesn't they've gotten essentially no consumer traction. And what we found is we started this with this bottom up thing. We got all these consumers excited and now all of a sudden there's this big network. And then because we have several hundred thousand people that own domain names and are building out their digital profiles, now we can start building all of this cool stuff on top. Um, Another little, I guess, kind of like a crypto history lesson around the unlocking of the car. Nick Szabo, who invented the concept of smart contract, in one of his early blog posts, this was the example he used: was you can unlock the car with your private key and have this system. So this was like almost like origin story of the concept of smart contracts
yeah,
that this would eventually happen. So we'll make it happen eventually.
yeah. Well, Apple's there with BMW and a few other mostly high end vehicle manufacturers right now, but like Apple Car Key or whatever it's called, like that's happening like right now. So you're welcome, Apple, from Nick
But
Szabo.
but but Apple controls your identity,
Yes. Well, yeah. Wait.
and
Yeah.
Apple can still turn you off, and Apple can still take your car away from you,
Yeah.
and so that still creates this security problem. So the Web 2 paradigm has led us to some very very good use cases and very very powerful features, but they're not interoperable. Like you have to work inside of the Apple ecosystem, and they're subject to security issues because there is a middleman that can turn you off or get hacked or any of those other things. So, um, I hope that we take all of those great features and rebuild them in a user-controlled, safer way. Um, because I think this is how they lure us in. They lure us in with these great, comfortable features,
Yeah.
and then over time we realize how dangerous they are. Like I don't think most people realize. Some people did, but I don't think most people realize how dangerous it was to hand over your entire life story to Facebook. Like at the time, it seemed pretty trivial. Like here's my cat picture. Here's what I did on the weekend. Whatever. It's only after a decade's worth of data being compiled on us and being sold and resold and hacked and all this sort of stuff that we realized, hey, this is actually quite a dangerous situation we've gotten ourselves into. And so I think that's the that's the tug here. And then Web3 says, hey, user be in control, but it's harder to use. So Web2 is saying super easy to use,
Hmm.
but over time it's going to be bad for you. And then Web3 is saying a little harder to use, but over time it's going to be very good for you. And so um, we have that struggle. I think that over the long term, I think Web3 is going to win clearly, but it means that we need to compete on UX. Like we need to make the
Yeah.
UX better because argument that this is going to be better for you in 10 years is not enough to get people to change their behavior today. And that's the task of the entire crypto industry. I would say like that's probably the main thing that we're thinking about is how do we make the user experience better because that's what's going to enable people to switch to this better internet.
Agreed. Okay, final question because we're gonna get you out of here soon. What can we expect to see from Unstoppable Domains from over the next 6 to 12 months? So like we're already halfway through the year, so whatever. Obviously, I'm not expecting you to drop any super secret alpha, but whatever you can share about that you guys are working on.
So I hinted, so login and authentication, um, identity checks, those are things that we already have. You're going to see those things getting tied together in a way where you're going to start to see that you have this Web3 digital profile that's actually providing utility for you as you go around and log into dApps. So I think that's the kind of that's the theme is that logging into dApps with your digital profile is going to uh, start to be more exciting over the next few months, and there's going to be a whole bunch of things around that coming. So that's my that's my teaser version.
Okay, yeah, I was kind of to maybe to add on to that. I was just looking through the list of supported applications. There's a lot more here than I knew about, which is great to see. So yeah, I'm
It's been
looking
moving
forward to
quite
it.
fast. I think there's almost 300 now. So the
Yeah.
number of dApps that have integrated very recently is quite I'm sorry is quite large. So that number's been going up quite quickly, and it's because of the login authentication protocol. Like
Yeah.
dApps are looking for a way to be able to more easily communicate with their users, and this is essentially a way to do that.
Terrific. Well, that's great, Bradley. Thank you very much for your time today. If people want to keep up, unstoppabledomains.com is obviously the place to go for the business side of things. If people want to see what your opinions are, can they check you out on Twitter? Do you have a Substack or something like that?
At Unstoppable Web is the best place to get updates. There's a lot of content that goes there.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. That's great. Thanks a lot. And for everybody listening or watching, until next time, stay free.